time of the preacher in the year of '01. When you think it's all over, it's only begun.
Howdy, pilgrims, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Preacher vs. Preacher. It's a comparison companion for the show Preacher on AMC, where we compare it to the book it's based on. It was written in the 90s by Garth Ennis and drawn by the late Steve Dillon. Now, who are we? I'm Bill Sweeney, and I got with me my buddy Dominic.
What's going on, guys?
Who's back. Thanks for coming back. We got my brother Bob.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
He's been here every single time so far.
I think I have perfect attendance.
Oh, damn. And normally you can check us out on the Wicked Theory podcast. That's what we normally do, but we knew that one day this show was going to come along and we were going to talk about it so much, it was going to take over that show. So we made this show. And that kind of sets it all up. So check us out over there if you want to. Wicked Theory podcast. Dom's back. Thanks for coming back, Dom.
I am pumped to be here. I am enjoying the season so far.
Wow.
But,
I feel like that's not what we were just talking about.
but with minor
caveats?
Minor issues.
Minor majors. I think we're going to get into...
We'll address them.
We are definitely going to get into some stuff this week about these deviations on this show.
Yeah. Well, it's now 4 episodes into the season, so
yeah.
I think it's a fair point.
It's a fair point. So the official business to get it out of the way, if people want to email us, they can do it. pvp@wickedtheory.com. Sign it with your Twitter handle if you want us to shout that out. Speaking of Twitter, follow us on Twitter @PreachVSPreach. And then the show's on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play. Subscribe, rate, and review, because that would be awesome and very nice of you.
We'd like
so
that.
Nice.
Yeah, so nice.
Get a gold star.
The spoiler rule around here this season is that we're going to be talking about the books in totality, backwards to forwards. It's going to come up here or there. We're going to spoil stuff that's going to end up happening in the show, so that's where we lie.
Basically,
Yeah. At least we hope it's going to happen on the show.
That's true. That's true. You never know. You never know.
basically, if you haven't read the full comic, if you're halfway through the comic,
right,
wait and go back and listen to us when you're done.
You know, if you
want
to be
spoil a lot of shit.
Yeah, if you want to be bold and adventurous and listen along, hey, that's cool. You know,
Right.
maybe you just don't care.
Right. If you don't want to ruin your experience with the TV show, you might want to stop reading until you're done with the whole length of the series.
Yeah, I think, there's a couple of different ways to go about it. I think maybe one of the best ways to kind of just take the books in now at this point might be, if you're looking for something during the season breaks.
Yeah, that's a good.
You haven't jumped into the book.
Definitely.
It's a good way to kind of tide you over and gives you something to do.
Yeah.
I was just trying to point out how the books and TV shows never coincide. So
they never coincide.
When you read through the whole thing of this book, you fall in love with it so much, generally speaking, that seeing things on shows like this one, it's so different. It gets to be so different. It gets to be a little,
I could see
anything that's different from a book is going to be upsetting to fans of the book.
Right. And I think where you're heading towards with that thought, if I may, is that kind of like this show is sometimes so different than the book that if you were doing both at the same time, you might be all like, it might be too much, because I think maybe like the book deserves a nice clean run, giving it a real good chance if you if you've seen the show first.
Right. It can get a little. I could see it getting confusing if you're doing both at the same time, like events from one to the other.
Did that happen? Did this happen? That's going to happen to you anyway. But
right.
Hey, you might like the show better. Who knows?
Hey, you might come back to us.
Yeah.
Which would be nice.
It would be.
It would be. All right, so the spoiler warning, right? We've wrapped that up, basically. We want you to read the books. That's what this podcast has always really been about. It's been about telling you that the books come first, at the very least, for listening to this.
Right.
Whether you do that in your own life, that's where we're going to lie.
Right.
So
is this a good point to segue into the potential book giveaway that we're going to do at some point in the season?
Potential book giveaway we're going to do some point this season. There you go.
So keep listening, because you never know what kind of information you're going to need.
It's true.
In order to...
people did have to do some legwork.
Yeah, they did have to do legwork last time, so they'll probably have to do some legwork this time.
All right, so with that, I think... Now that's kind of squared away, the official business, we can just kind of jump into the episode, right? Hey, wait a minute. Now, that's the thing we could address. Now, Tom, you weren't here last week. And what we kind of came up with,
I listened to the
if
episode.
that's true, you did. You're a good boy. Is that maybe this bell on this show, on this podcast, is reserved for when something new from the books comes into the show, or some kind of like really, really direct. Hey, that is from the book, man.
So something we're happy about?
Well, it's not just that we're happy. We would be if we saw that.
Right.
Right. Exactly. That's how you could describe those moments, like when we have like, these epiphanies, like, oh my God, I believe that might be from that book.
Hair Star we saw this week.
Yeah, we got a
We're
bell.
talking about it, and that's new. Bing. Yeah.
Right. So that's like last week. It was like, oh, we should really start maybe using the bell for that. That might be interesting to see at the end of the episode. How many times do we ring that?
Right.
All right. So let's get into the breakdown, right? Let's get all up into it. So the episode, this one opens up right where the last one left off. Tulip was buying a pack of cigarettes, and the guys, these mysterious guys, have been trying to track her down.
Guy's got a big head.
Yeah, they came up on her, they grabbed her, and they took her to Viktor's house. And so,
nice house.
on their way there, we jumped over and saw that Jesse was finally getting to Dennis's house. He gets inside, asks for Tulip, and Cassidy does the first thing that we'll see, like a lot of this as the episode goes, where he's like, she's out, or she's not here. Like, he starts playing this game where he doesn't want to speak.
Yeah, he's stalling for her.
He's stalling for her. He doesn't want to say, like, he's committing to this.
Well, she told him
tell Jesse.
Not tell Jesse where she was and everything, because obviously, as we'll get to later on in the episode, she we now know why she didn't want to be in Louisiana.
Yeah, maybe why she didn't want to get married.
Victor and Jesse to meet or ever find out about each other, probably.
Yeah, I think it's also too. In the end, it's like, why didn't she want to get married back in Vegas? Because
she saw somebody, and then so if events had happened.
Yeah, she kind of probably knew this was all coming. And not Vegas. It wasn't true Vegas. It wasn't even Vegas. It was a reservation, the Mumbai Sky Tower.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So back to it. She's there. Jesse goes to take a nap. We cut back to Tulip, and Viktor comes out of the back room. He's got a guy in there working over some other guy.
Sounded like the Kincannon meat factory again.
A little bit.
Just with human sounds and not fucking cow sounds.
Finally, some human sacrifices.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a slow scene. It's really just the two of them sitting there, and it's like, what are we going to do with you? She doesn't say nothing. We go right to the credits. After the credits, we come back to Arseface in hell. And do we want to just take a moment to address how hell is different than the comics here?
I think
by leaps and freaking bounds, it's different.
I like it. I think it's actually
working for you.
It's a big divergence from the comic, obviously.
In the book, the hell is basically like typical fire brimstone.
Right. But I think it works. I think it works in today's day and age with technology the way it is. I think it makes sense. I think why wouldn't they have like sick technology to basically
why wouldn't it be a reflection
make
of
your hell be a presentation for you? Like you know what I mean? It all revolves around a projector, which is interesting because it's something that I've never really seen done.
Yeah.
Where it's like your hell is a projection of your worst memory.
Yeah, I mean,
that's it on a loop. That's all you see.
I think that's a thought I've heard of. I don't know if I've ever really seen it done.
It's a theme we've seen now twice in this show, because they did it with Saint of Killers. As well.
Right. But here's the thing that's a conundrum too, because I think hell might have been conceived this way after the fact, a little bit, because in Saint of Killers, hell at the end, when he confronts the angels, like, they're not in a cell. They are literally in his dream with him, much the way that Eugene ends up sharing into Hitler's. Well,
that's what I was going to say. You can get fully, like,
placed inside,
you can get fully taken into that realm, I
if
guess.
you want to call it that. The hologram, the holodeck, the holodeck. There you go. It's the holodeck.
The one problem I had with hell this week was how much time we spent there with Eugene and how much time you spend with like the surrounding characters there, where like they want you to
get this setting down.
Really get to know these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That side bully that I don't even really remember his name. He had his fucking collar
So
pop and
that's
shit.
Taylor.
Okay.
And he's actually in 13 Reasons Why. So I watched that on Netflix. And so when I was looking at this kid, I'm like, who is this
Right.
douche? This fucking kid. And he's so good at it. And he's a complete douche in that thing, too.
Sure.
He's naturally douchey.
Right.
So, yeah. So
It just sets up the only problem that I really have with the whole setup of Hell in the show is that it kind of just makes it a little bit easier for the writers to skirt around some of the religious shit because in Garth Ennis's Hell, it's a more of a biblical representation of hell.
a little bit,
And-
yeah.
and
Well, it's
there's a lot-
demons and it's hell, it's
there's
brimstone.
demons and there's things going on down there
Yeah.
like that.
There's a little bit
and
of
you would have to show
machinations.
that on TV.
Yeah, it's special effects. It's
So-
giant demons and wings and
And
bodies.
it's sensitive shit too, you know.
Yeah, it gets a little into that. This is a way to kind of like do something completely different.
That still is acceptable.
Yeah.
To me, at least.
I mean, it's a fun gag. It's a fun setup. I mean, we get to see Hitler after all, and it's
Kind of sympathize.
yeah. Well, that's the setup. Like they're like they. Seth and Evan actually had a thing where on the official site where they give you the behind the scenes for the episode kind of a thing, and they were like, yeah, we're known for making dictators likable because of the King Jong,
Right.
because of the Jong Un
Yeah.
thing.
The interview.
Yeah. So
Which was a very funny movie.
which was really funny.
It was.
So basically, but we do get to see this whole kind of group of scabs that are down there, and one of the things that we really kind of are there to see is Eugene goes into Hitler's cell and gets to have a moment with Hitler, where we get to see what set Hitler off. And at first, I kind of figured, we just didn't see it all.
Right.
They kind of just want us to feel like it was the table bump. And we'll probably see more of it later because the machine kind of breaks down on him too.
Yeah.
And
it does.
and so at that point he's like, okay, you can go. So, but you get this whole scene with Hitler in a restaurant with a woman, and it's
Early
on, 1919, it's Munich, and this Jew bumps the table, bumps his arm, and it's this whole like moment in his eyes.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, sorry, no problem. Yeah. And then
It's almost like, are we seeing the moment when he becomes evil?
Right, because then nothing else of pertinence happens. The girl
Right.
continues to tell him about, you should show that guy your artwork,
Right.
and then the machine wonks down. So Eugene's left with that's it. That's what you're upset about, basically.
Right.
And which that's what you're supposed to get away from with that. Like, is this the thing? Is this it, really, guy?
Yeah.
This is the stupid thing that sets you off. So it's just a funny little twist with Hitler, but
Yeah, it makes him look more of a
sympathetic.
weak dick too.
Yeah.
Because of how simple that whole thing was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, how basic and how
Yeah.
trite. So we come out of that. We go over to. Hitler does say, "Welcome to hell, Eugene," and then we shift. We go to Tulip, and she's with Vic.
Vic?
Vic. We go way back.
All right.
Me and Vic. Who actually I kind of do. We do go way back with that guy. That guy's been in everything.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's last name, I think, is Paul Victor. It's like one of these hyphenated names, so it's actually did you guys do that on purpose somehow?
Yeah.
But anyway, she's crying. She's doing the sob game. It's this little. Here's the thing: like this whole story, like when you kind of rewatch it and you kind of like look at it, it's like a little bit of a cat and mouse game just to get us to a couple of certain points. Like she's not texting Cassidy back. Cassidy's only texting her like, "Are you okay?" And they're just kind of. It's a dodge kind of thing. It's a bunch of stalks. There's even the boyfriend. Even Victor's like, you know what? Go for a walk. Go walk it off, kid.
Which is something that at the time during the episode I was like, what the fuck? Like she's like a prisoner. They're letting her go. Like they're letting her just roam free around the house. And then later on when you find out that they're married,
there's a little bit.
all right,
There's a little bit of recontextualization.
I get it now.
Because they were playing certain things on so double-sided. Right, exactly. It's like when the little girl later on spits in her face.
Right.
And it's like, I hope my father kills you. So now it's like.
she's her mom's replacement, basically.
Yeah.
So
and
she
it's
hates
like,
her.
Yeah, right. Like you came into my life. I thought you were going to be cool. And then you left too. So now I fucking hate you too. Doesn't matter that I'm a little kid. I just, we all hate you.
Right. And
But the disgust from everybody was like so high. It was like getting
Yeah.
I'm like, what
It was
could you
over the
possibly
top.
have done?
Right.
That's got everybody mad. It's just because you broke his heart. and now we're all mad at you because you broke Victor's heart because Victor was a nice guy.
I'll
but
do
now
a little bit of theorizing here.
Sure.
I think what's probably going to end up happening is that she met him or whatever,
Right.
got with him, whatever, before she rekindles back with Jesse the first time.
Right.
So I think somehow that whole bank heist
Mm-hmm.
with Carlos from last season
Sure.
is going to be one of the things that kind of fucked up their relationship.
Yeah, well, we do see a little bit of next week's episode in the tease, and you get
Oh,
to see
did we?
Jesse.
I didn't see
Jesse
the
with a little
trailer.
bit of
Weren't
wig.
they on
Good
that?
call. Good
Yeah,
call.
weren't they
I didn't
on
see the
that-
trailer.
I'm sorry. Weren't they on that heist for Victor?
Mm.
Because I thought I remember hearing them talk about Victor
Right.
in reference to...
I think it's just
It might have
because
been.
I did it
that.
early on too. I was getting confused with Carlos from last season.
I've heard his name before. His appearance.
Quite possibly. Sure.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel confident in that. That's just to put it that way.
So if they're directly tied, it does play into that kind of the timeline where like this guy obviously, I feel like my theory is kind of like she hooked up with them looking for work, like doing like hitman stuff,
Right.
and then like ended up getting into it with him, relationship or whatever. He marries her, and then under some other reasons she ends up leaving and causing some kind of big, or for the reason that she actually left was some big deal, or causing a big deal after she left.
Well, because it's like anything else in her life. It's one bullshit snowballs into another bigger bullshit,
Right.
and so on and so on.
That's exactly it. That's the kind of character she is.
You
Like
know?
it grows out of control. These things, these things escalate.
I was just gonna say it.
That's what they do. So with that,
Where are we at next?
so now we're at Cassidy keeps texting her. She keeps dodging it. Then we go back to Jesse and Cassidy. They're at Dennis's, and Cass, is like, hey, because Jesse finally wakes up from this 2-hour nap. I guess that's all you really need when you've been asleep like for 3 days, been awake for 3 days rather. And so it comes to so it's the whole thing with Dennis. And so Dennis this week was another one of these where he's just talking French.
Right.
And so what does he say this week on what the fuck did Dennis say? It's why are all these people in my apartment? You're so selfish. You've been selfish your whole life, haven't you? And why should I endure it? So it's a little bit
translation there.
Yeah, it's a little bit messy on the last sentence from what Reddit user TXL Zone has been putting together.
Okay.
All right, so we got it from him last week. Credit due where it's all deserved. But yeah, so it's one of these. They're obviously setting Dennis up to start to put the seed into people's head about what a douche Cassidy's been,
Right.
and how he just kind of burns people up.
Which is something that you don't find out about till much later on in the comic.
Like you see it a little bit, but you don't get the feeling that it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's his story. Like
Right.
that's his
That's his
crux.
go-to. That's his.
Yeah.
That's how he relates to the world.
Like when you meet the people in Louisiana and the girl who's all pissed at him
Right,
from
that's-
shit back in the days. So it's like, okay, like this is just his story. He's kind of with his past. But then later on, when you meet the homeless chick and
Well,
she
that's-
starts giving the whole backstory.
No, that's the thing. Like for me, I always looked at Cassidy's storyline as a good example of Garth Ennis's genius throughout this whole work.
The slow
because
reveal of
how
it.
it's like you see it revealing basically each page you turn at a certain point in the book.
Right.
It's basically about when he comes out to Tulip.
Right.
But just the gradual decline into the abyss for him, and then
it
how
is.
it just like opens up, and then it's like, oh wow, he's that much of a dick.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like, oh, I didn't realize it this whole time, but now I see it, and it's so obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that I always thought was great
It's, especially on the
on Ennis's part.
right, and it becomes so like you kind of see like the footprints of it earlier on that reread kind of a thing where it's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, yeah, that really was kind of either there intentionally from early on, or he was just like, that's the seed, I'm just going to build straight, and was able to do that. Like who
Right.
knows? But
Right.
it's one of the
Right.
cooler things.
I think what's happening with Cassidy is we're seeing him as the prick that he is a lot faster simply because of the medium.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
You know, because I mean, TV's going to move so much faster, and there's so much more stuff that's got to be filled in.
And it is like a subtle introduction of it, where it's
you just come up with his character. You know what I mean? You just end up you have to use it.
yeah. And I feel like it is like a subtle thing where it's like for them in this, like the first time in the comics, it's just like, okay, whatever, you kind of going through it. But here it's like, okay, it's just going to be this funny French guy who doesn't really like him. It's like, you know, it could be offhanded for people who don't know, you know, nothing to really take in much of. And then it'll become like a recurring thing probably as we run into people who know him, where every person has some issue with him, or eventually Jesse will probably turn to be like, Cassidy, why does everybody hate you? It's like everybody hates you. Right. You know, and he'll be like, oh, no, you know, 112, you can't make friends everywhere, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty much what he would say.
You know, something like that. So with that, let's see now. We got Dennis. We met Dennis. We talked to him. Then they're chilling there, and then Cassidy sees it's Katrina Relief infomercial, and this is where we finally see that.
They're still doing that? I mean,
the Katrina Relief. It's
been a while.
Well, at the very least, like, you know.
I mean, granted, I don't live down there.
They are in Louisiana, so even though it's been 10 years.
I thought the lady eating the chicken bone in the very beginning of it was a little too much until like we found out it was supposed to be like an
everybody over the top.
Yeah, and it's like an infomercial. It's not just like a regular.
Frankie Muniz, by the way.
Well, that's the thing, and then Frankie Muniz pops up pissing in the middle of it too. You know, and it ends up just being about actors. It's like, don't forget us. Right. Like this actor thing, I think, more than regular relief. It's like, help the actors from this town.
Right.
But happening also in that is that we get a little bit of a conversation between Jesse and Cassidy, where Jesse's talking about the conversation he had with Featherstone, who he doesn't know is Featherstone. And he's talking about the white suits and the conspiracies. And it's the white suits that all of a sudden Cassidy's like, now you're gone too far. You know, he believed all the other stuff. He's telling about lizard people, but white suits, all in white, no, he's not buying it.
And I think right at that moment is when the camera cuts outside to the street.
Yes, where
and Hoover pops up doing some crazy subway sign dancing.
Yeah, he's doing a sign spin. He's a sign spinner, and it was almost like one of these kind of like blink and you miss it almost kind of things too. Because it was just like I was like, why are we watching? Oh shit, it was Hoover. Because when he throws a sign up, he's like, I'm in position,
right,
and then catches it,
right.
Which I was like, yeah, you know that's all set up.
Yeah,
I mean,
that we didn't get.
But it was like one of those cartoony moments that they're putting in the show,
right. It was a little bit silly.
I wish they would do a little bit. No, because of the exaggerated amount of time that the thing was in the air.
Yeah.
And he's on the phone.
Right.
You know?
It was a little extra. You know, it's like, how high did you throw that?
Yeah,
you know?
That's... guys, we don't need that in this show.
It was just a little touch. It was a tiny touch too much.
You got plenty of other opportunities for humor. Let's not make this thing the Kentucky Fried Movie.
And then when they pull back, it was like such a weird thing too, because it's like... I guess that's part of it too, is that like, yeah, we're watching the house that they're all in, but I'm going to be doing this real inconspicuous sign spinning on a side street. It felt like like you wouldn't be there if you were sign spinning.
Directly in front. Yeah, right? No, I know.
It felt like a residential side street as opposed to some busy kind of block.
He was definitely on the wrong block.
Yeah. Which I thought was kind of cool, because when I watched it the second time, I'm like...
It's just so goofy. It just sets how Seth Rogen writes, like, you know, he puts in these little stupid things.
But... it doesn't need it. It doesn't warrant it.
I agree. I think one of the things that's like sometimes too much for me is like when they lean into the comedy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And it's like,
it's
I don't mind
laughing.
I don't mind like I know it's there in the books, but it's not at this level. Like it's there for punch in the books.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas
it's a real heavy topic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to lighten it up.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think that's what they think, is that this is like they're lightening it up, but they're lightening it up like a lot.
No, this is starting to feel like almost like Get Smart.
There are
at times.
There are a couple times where it's like it's not that level, but
no, but there's almost shades of Mel Brooks going on.
Yeah, there are times where it gets a little. I'm glad there's not more of them, but
I think you said it last week on the show,
right?
When I was listening back. some people that really like the show that have never seen the book might go pick up the book and not like it because of how dark it is and how not funny it is.
Yeah, how that
because
so
it's
much,
really not a funny book. It's just
it's
there's
got dark
little
humor.
things in it that make you laugh and say, "What the fuck?" Not like a giggle laugh where it's like, "Oh, that's cute."
Right,
you know,
right.
Anything that's funny in the book is because someone's getting their fucking dick chopped off or someone's...
It's ironic, dark humor. Like, you know what I mean? It's like the story's actually mean to characters in that way sometimes. Like what happens to Hoover, like, you know, it's almost like basically it's like, it's fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? And like when Jesse does that, it's like...
it's funny, but it's like...
It's this funny dark twist, but it doesn't matter because they're characters in a book. Like, you know what I mean? And like for people now, it's like with TV shows, it's like they get so attached. So I think that's sometimes a thing for them, maybe on the writer's side, where it's like, oh yeah, but let's do it like this.
Fuck that.
You know what I mean?
That.
Yeah.
Because how are you gonna?
You can't do that all the
can't
time.
write a show based on
of material, and then it becomes so different.
Well, not even that, but I'm saying you can't write your show around how the fans perceive a character.
Right. You got to write what's good for the character, good for the story.
Right.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. All
And
right.
that's what a lot of shows do nowadays.
And that's what a lot of shows do.
But who the fuck am I?
We're just guys on a podcast. We don't know nothing.
Yeah.
So we go back to Cassidy, and then he finally sees the guy who played God in the ad. And then him and Jesse, they see Frank Muniz, who's taking a leak. Turns out they figure out God is a local actor. And we jump back to hell, where luckily they have repairmen, which must be one of the most shitty jobs.
Yep.
I hate to be the actual custodian. I guess repairman's a little better. But if I had to mop up down there, it's probably a shitty job, just going to say.
A lot of guts, maybe.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure the bathrooms aren't very nice. But basically, so with that, it's just so that the Arseface and the warden can walk off together. We come back to them later. We're back to Tulip, and she's kind of walking around the house like we were talking about before, and her old buddies don't really want her around.
No one's talking to her.
Nobody likes her anymore. Whatever she's done is so highly offensive and unbelievably wrong that, that kid has to spit on her.
Yeah.
And then we go with Jesse and Cass to Teddy Gunt's office. Hey guys, Teddy Gunn.
Hey, Teddy Gunn.
Teddy Gunn. And you know what? That was a pretty funny scene. It was good stuff. And they're all highlights like this. Things like this where it's like, for me anyway, this is a highlight moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Moments like this are funny, and I think they're funnier if without those slapstickier moments.
Right. Like I find the conversational stuff better.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's that kind of show. I
Yeah.
mean, and then you try and find moments during like the fight scenes that he uses the power and whatever.
Yeah.
Like in the book,
Right.
use that as more of a template.
Yeah. Well, I do like the fact that like in the book, like he just kind of doesn't use the power too much by default. Maybe by having a conversation here or whatever, he mentions not liking to do it too much or whatever.
Definitely says that at least once.
He's mentioned that a couple of times.
Yeah, and I think Tulip gives him shit for it once or twice.
Oh, yeah.
But, and here in the show, it's that plus the whole, hey, don't go using it because you're going to trigger Santa Killers. He's going to be able to find you that much easier. So at least like I like that he's not using it constantly because I was wrestling with that too. I'm like, oh, I would use it right there. I would use it right here. I would use it right there. It's like, why isn't he using it? And it's like, all right, he's not going to use it all the time. And then later on, like when he kind of loses control, you know what I mean? And we get to see him use it a lot. It was kind of, I don't know. I liked it. We'll get to it though. So we're in Teddy Gunt's office, and then doing some agent stuff, and then Cassie's like, we're casting for Game of Thrones. And then, which I thought was funny. And then they negotiate $15,000 per episode, but we got to get first class. Well, even Dinklage flies business, which was funny.
That was a good one.
It was good stuff. And then we go back to hell. Well, we find out at Teddy Gunn's office that he's got the audition tape.
Right.
And then they're going to get their hands on that. We cut back to hell. Phone call. Notice at the phone call at the desk with the warden when the scene starts.
Right.
She's probably talking about Santa Killers.
Yes.
Because it seems to be, well, how did he get out? Right. There's the big,
Because at the time you don't really see Eugene, so it's like, oh, maybe did he escape or some shit.
Right,
like,
right, right.
What happened?
Right. Because there was a theory that, like...
But it's pretty obvious that she's talking about
Yeah.
seeing the killers.
Right. And, there is a theory that, like, it's kind of like a one-for-one swap, kind of like in and out of hell. And maybe that's why Eugene is so, like...
Grounded.
Well, put right into the... It's not like, he's here and he's not supposed to... alarms are going off. Someone's breached the hell wall. You know what I mean? It's not like a big deal. It's like, no, you really didn't die, but you're in the mix anyway. So maybe it's something about like this kind of a thing. Like one left, one came in.
Could be.
With somebody's theory out there. So phone call's probably about to see the killers. She gives him a bit of. Eugene a bit of a speech about acting accordingly, which is. Comes back later on, but it's like a hint, like, you do what you got to do to survive in here. I still don't think that prison's half as bad as Oz. I tweeted that out the other day. So there's that. It's still pretty nice, even with Hitler as a neighbor. Hitler wasn't too bad.
This version of Hitler, I guess,
he's done some thinking.
I didn't know the original one, but this version makes him seem...
I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, even Eugene goes on to ask him, what's going on?
You don't seem so
like
bad. You don't seem so bad.
He got what he deserved, though. He got the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one beating you don't mind watching.
No. Even when Eugene kind of hesitates and then jumps in, it's like, he's gonna.
Yep.
And then it's like, are they going to let him do it, though? For a split second, I was like, but is the show going to let him do it? And they did, which was cool.
Yep.
Like, I was like, all right, good. Even though they did kind of give him a little bit of an out by looking up at the camera in the corner and being like, is he kind of doing it because he has to? It's
That's basically why I did it. I think.
Yeah. It's
but I think this is the first. This is the show slowly showing us what Eugene is going to become,
right?
Or what Arseface is going to become for a short while,
right?
Because he does go through that phase where he's like on this.
I think he's got.
Maybe we're going to see him become a badass in hell. And when he gets out, he's not going to be Eugene. He's going to be Assface.
He might just earn the name down there. They might just start chanting it for him or something. I could see that. Like, imagine like he rises to power on the cell block. Like or something, that would be great. Like turns out to be a little bit of an Oz. Maybe
he does something smart to one of the the stronger muscle.
Right. He ends up taking out that kid Taylor.
Yeah, and whoever else he needs to, and ends up having a nice, bit of leverage.
Yeah,
that'd be fucking
great if they all just like chant his name out there. Because I was going to say, like, that is a theory some people have that, like, at the very least, now this will make him jaded, so when he comes out, he's gonna, I went to hell. You know what I mean? I'm pissed.
Well,
he's got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, right. So,
that too, but in the very least, like when he comes out of hell, Bill's been saying this for the whole time. Basically, he's probably gonna come back in fucking
Anvil.
Anvil, right? I
right.
couldn't think of the name.
Yeah.
In Anvil, and he's gonna see that his whole town is destroyed.
Right. He's got to have a motivation for going after them, and I figure that's gotta be the easy out.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see him standing on a giant mountain of shit.
Yeah.
Screaming, I'm gonna get you, Jessica.
Basically. You gotta shake your fist at the sky, though.
It was a little too clear, though.
A little thunder in the background.
I heard him say hey, because they put the dialogue in, and he says hey, where like the lisp is on hey is like at the end of hey. Like, and I can't figure out how, like he adds a lisp at the end of it.
Hey.
Hey,
how you doing?
Hey,
hi.
Like, I guess it's like that.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, not so hard after all.
That lisp that might be just from him wearing all that makeup. Like,
well, it does that. It does that. It definitely does this. It definitely does this thing to it. But like he said, that's a good thing. Like he can do without the makeup on. It's not like something like in his mouth or anything like that. It's just all him doing with his tongue.
Right.
So kid spits on Tulip. I hope my father kills you. They watch the God audition, which ends with a nice little surprise.
Yeah.
That the guy gets shot.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because I was formulating the thought actually while he was watching it of, well, how does this guy? Was he really on the other end of the phone in heaven? And it's like, oh yeah, he was.
I was thinking maybe it was something where like they might have just photoshopped that audition, like
right. Just superimposed it.
Like the Angels, like they have sick Photoshop.
They got
skills,
sick
like
Adobe fucking After Effects. But one of the things that I saw online is that supposedly a lot of that dialogue that he's reading from is from the books.
Yep.
When God comes back on one of his return trips and starts spewing all this kinds of stuff. The first part seemed real familiar to me, but the last part, fucking, I'm sure it's in there.
It sounded familiar to me too, but I thought it was just because
it's a lot of fire and brimstone.
Well, but I thought he was saying what he says in the finale of last season, basically. Like they had the audition script was the script that he was going to read when he did the scene later on.
And it might have been a mix then, because I initially I couldn't figure, I wasn't sure, and even on the rewatch after I saw that was the thought that it did come from the books. I still was like, And then you saw me, I was trying to skim around just now in all these
before
books.
we started recording.
Yeah, and I was like, I can't find it exactly. So, can't prove it, but it might be from the book, so we'll give it a thunk.
Half a thunk.
Half a thunk.
Not a full ring.
Not a full ring. That went better than I thought it would. Okay, so they watched the tape. Text from the book. We talked about that. Tulip. We cut back to Tulip. She beats up a guy. One of the guards. I guess she gets tired of walking around. She's like, "Let's get this show on the road," which
tried to open the safe.
Right,
but,
the gun safe.
They changed the lock, the code, I should say.
Yeah, just a month ago.
Yeah.
They finally got around to it. She's been gone for a while, but they just got around to it.
I think it's actually ADHD, and she just gets violent when she can't sit still.
That's probably what it was. She was just like, I'm just gonna play with it like a fidget spinner. I'm just gonna spin the dial. I'm just spinning the dial.
And then he interrupted her, and that was it.
She doesn't like being interrupted with her fidgets. So she whoops his ass, takes his gun, and then she ends up upstairs in Victor's bedroom. Because it's why didn't they have a conversation an hour ago? Because we're just dragging us all out a little bit. It's a TV thing. It's not just this show. All shows do it. And it's one of these. We need other things to happen first, so we need a stall in this storyline so they can all meet up at the end. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So she pulls a gun on Victor. The guards tackle her. We go to commercial. We come back. And then we're back to hell. Arseface, he's into Gen Pop. Finally now. We were talking before. The cafeteria or some shit. That's how we should have started this episode. Recorded live from the lunchroom of hell.
Yeah.
With our friend Hitler. And he doesn't seem so bad. No. Why is nobody like you? And he's like, oh, woe is me. I'm just a little murderer. No one likes me. I wish I had more friends like you, Eugene.
I hope they really tell you why is it like that.
I hope they give us something more. At least have them, he should have snapped in that restaurant scene. You know what I mean? But I guess if it's I get the idea. The more you think about it, it's like an irony thing where, the guy who's done the most worst thing ever had this super non-thing trigger him.
Yeah.
I get it. There's a witty play there.
It's not even so much that I want to see what made real-life Hitler do what he did.
Right.
What got him in hell.
Sure,
but it's I want to see what got him to act the way he's acting now in hell, where he's this polite guy.
Right.
Very thoughtful.
Where did this epiphany come from? And
I think we have more of a chance of seeing that.
I think this thing is supposed to mirror an event, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% on this, but he was a painter,
right,
an artist.
Yeah.
And I believe he got trashed by a Jewish critic.
I believe that's true. I believe there's with his art career, there's a Jew at fault. Yeah.
That's
critic
where this thing stops,
gallery.
right before that's supposed to be taking place. Because that's what she says. Oh, I know this guy, and she's talking about his art.
Right.
So I think that would be the next place that this.
Oh, so then that's that whole thing then with the exchange in the.
Maybe with that sort
in the cafe.
Maybe he recognizes that guy.
That guy in the back. That critic must be Jewish.
Right, but actually, I just watched it. So she's saying, but
he must just reject that right out the gate.
Right, like Bob was saying.
We'll come back to that scene later on.
Right, yeah, because that's what she's saying. Go show him.
Right.
So no one's seen his stuff yet.
Right. Okay, I didn't know that, Bob. Good historical fact.
Hitler's, it was a house painter and an artist.
So, and I think someone else also told me that Hitler had someone else paint his house.
Somebody told you. I think it was, I'm looking.
And it was a Jewish guy, and he took off with the money, didn't do the job.
Right.
So he got ripped off, and that was like a last straw. I don't know how true that is.
Right.
I also heard this artist thing, which is what it seems like we're going to be seeing on the
I remember
show.
hearing the artist thing, too.
Yeah.
That, Well, it'll be interesting to see, like, just if there's any more to it at all, or if that's just we're just gonna run with that little tiny thing being what set him off.
Maybe that's all we're gonna see of Hitler's hell.
Yeah, maybe that's all we
and
get
you're
to.
supposed to know what we just discussed.
Right.
You know what I mean, or something like that, or whatever.
Or get wrapped up in a
You're supposed to
line.
know where it leads.
And something like this too. There might even be a thing where like we saw enough, and we'll just get the rest of it in a line of dialogue from him. Like, I used to be a painter, and a Jew was mean to me,
Right.
so therefore, X, Y, Z. You know,
I think much like the actual show
etc.,
itself.
etc., etc.
I think much like the show itself, we're spending way too much time on it.
Oh, good call. Good call. All right. So, anyway, he gets the gem pop, and they all do the fucking Stomp Fest 2017 on this guy's head. And even Arseface, he gets all into it. Snake hail!
No, not arse face, it's ass face here.
We can finally actually get ass face, right? You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
That's
no,
they call him that. Yeah, that guy Taylor calls him that right away.
He says a few curse words. He says shit.
Yeah,
a couple times.
We get a little poopy doody caca.
Well, it is kind of hell.
AMC's branching out a little
Well,
bit.
we do
here.
get shit on these shows once in a while. And I think we've gotten shit here more than Walking Dead bothers to use it.
No,
I'll say
definitely.
that. So
And they got a lot of reason on that show to say, "Oh shit."
So what happened to you, Hitler? You used to be so tough. Then Assface jumps in. Cass tells Jesse finally what the fuck is going on. Jesse starts using the word like he's been saving it up and he needs to purge. Let's open the gate. Let me in. Don't say nothing. Sit down. Be good. Do your homework. Eat your vitamins.
Right.
Like, basically that's like giving out 20 commands. Where is she?
And one thing I thought was interesting throughout that whole sequence, because I like that sequence a lot.
Yeah, where he goes like storming in.
But one thing I thought was interesting was that they all recognized him. All those guys, like they all like the guys sitting at the poker table, like they recognize him like when he's coming through. Like I don't know if it's just they're startled just because
I
he's a
didn't,
rando, but like I think it's because they kind of know who he is.
they might be tipped up to like this is the preacher dude that's like been running with her. I'm
Right.
sure at some level.
I mean, I know they
may
don't
not
know
have
that
seen
he's
him.
fucking got the word or anything.
Right,
like that,
right.
you
And they
know?
may not have even seen him, but they know that she's with a preacher, and here comes this guy with a collar. You know what I mean? So what's this about?
Right.
Definitely getting a reaction, but he shuts that down.
Fuck yeah, he does.
And then he goes into the back room with the dude wearing the headphones who was basically giving people acid spritzes earlier. And they have this knockout, drag out fight.
Great fight scene.
Another great fight scene.
Yep.
Better than last week's. Like, gotta give it to Dominic Cooper and the
Best
team
one
on this one.
Best one the show has done to date.
Yeah. Nice, good stuff.
One of the best I've seen on TV in a while.
Yeah, like, you know what's great?
They're definitely very entertaining. Personally, I think Jesse doing this much fighting is a little over top now. It seems like it's going to be a bit much, but that's not to say that I don't enjoy what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's still,
You know what I mean?
and it's not my
They're
line.
Excellent work, like with these fight scenes.
And it's not my line, but, like, people said it online right away. They were like, this is better fighting than Iron Fist.
Yeah.
And it was, because it was, like, kind of like, it was knuckle drag down. It was street level kind of brawl.
I mean, it's not as like ninja-esque as Iron Fist should have been,
Right.
But it's they're brawlers, they're
Yeah.
they're just regular tough guys. That's really all they are.
Yeah.
So
But it was cool, and it was all set to Uptown Girl by Billy Joel, which was nice, which was a nice touch, which was funny. And so then once he pulls the guy's headphones out, tell me where she is. She's upstairs. He runs upstairs, and like I said to Bob, as soon as I don't know if it was like as soon as he comes in and he starts beating the guy up, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a thing.
Yep.
This is gonna be a thing where it's not gonna matter.
But before
and it was like, he's my husband,
right.
and it was like, wonk wonk. We did the whole runaround just to kind of get to this like one thing that wasn't being said. Because I said to you during a commercial break, I was like, they still didn't say what she did, right? And he was like, no, definitely not. Or then, like, right before, I didn't see the husband thing coming, but I was like, oh, this is going to be one of these things where, like, we're just going to get to this moment to finally, whatever the secret is going to kibosh this whole thing.
Yeah, well, immediately I knew she was going to be stopping him for some reason, so I was just waiting for it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So with that, it kind of wraps right there. We do get to see some Santa Killers taking a nice walk on a closed highway.
Yeah,
That was
we see
nice.
him I think it almost looked like he spun around on his heels.
Yeah, he did a do-si-do.
Yeah.
Like he might have heard something.
He's going very slow.
Well, he's walking.
Yeah, and he's in no rush.
He's in no rush. It's much like the book in that
He
regard.
ain't dying anytime soon.
He does pop up once here and there, kind of a thing. He's always looming. You know what I mean? So, again, he's the most consistent, even with his own changes. Him and, like,
Yeah.
generally speaking, him and Arseface are I don't know. It's going to depend. How could you weigh one of these characters against each other, all so varied and changed up?
Yeah, there's enough changing for everybody going on this show. I think they need to start keeping to the book a little bit.
Yeah, I'm kind of,
We're almost halfway through this season, right?
like if you could,
Almost a
if
quarter
they
of
were
the
doing
way.
a thing where it was like we were hitting the road marks in the book a little bit more, and how we were getting there was a little different, I wouldn't feel too bad. Like I get that this season kind of like, for all intents and purposes, is 13 episodes. It just started. This is the 4th episode. So right now they're kind of like settling into what we're going to get this season.
If we don't get any Genesis backstory next week, I'm gonna start to get nervous.
Okay.
Because after that, there's only about 8 episodes left, right?
Yeah, but a lot can
And,
happen. I
I
mean, they
just-
could spin this on a dime if they wanted to. Like, everything could be going all right, and all of a sudden it's like, let's snatch up Jesse and Tulip and do the and start. I don't think it's gonna. Spoilers for next season, basically, but like supposedly, according to Louisiana local write-up, that they've already filed for season 3
Okay.
for Louisiana. So does this mean necessarily? Well, here's my thinking. Does it mean necessarily that they're going to be doing the same shtick, or is it like, okay, well, at least next season, because there's swamps and we're going to do all that stuff, that we're
Right.
going to head into
That's what
Graham?
I was thinking.
At the very least, maybe this season will end with a cliffhanger of them getting snatched up and thrown in the van, and it's not the guys in white. You know what I mean? And it's
It's TC and Jody.
yeah,
Right.
maybe we won't see their faces yet because, maybe they're not cast, or they're going to keep that a surprise or something like that. Because that's kind of what they did by saying Air
Yeah.
Star season 1. Like, they
Definitely.
did
I
the face
could definitely
dodge.
see that being the case. For sure.
And just being like, oh my God, what happened to people? And we can just be like, go get the books, go get the books.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, that would be a great ending too. By the way,
I think that's,
if they somehow address that and all the Grail God chasing shit,
I think if we get some of
and
that,
that at the end, I have no complaints.
because I wonder if we're going to get a little bit of Dixie Fried. It's a little bit of them jumbling around the timeline, which they seem comfortable with doing anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, what we could get doesn't necessarily have to include Jesse at all. I mean, it could be the backstory for his father.
I did see that there was a mention, like someone asked, oh, are we going to get Cassidy backstory? And it seems like some of that, we're going to get a good amount of that in season 3, or it's a thing that we're looking at season 3 for that.
Okay.
So if Jesse,
Maybe we meet Annie then.
well, I'm thinking at the very least, if Cassidy gets separated from Tulip and Jesse, that there's a kind of a place right there to play with it.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And maybe that's why, like, because they do get separated, because Cassidy's not at Grandma's house for all that, right?
No.
So
Right.
I think when he's separated from them, we follow him, and that's when we pick up some stuff about his past,
They
right?
meet back in New York after that.
Oh, okay, right.
Right.
Oof, right, okay.
Yeah, because
And,
that's
that
when
deviates, right.
Yeah, that's when God kills somebody
But the whole thing,
and,
though,
and brings that person back.
Fair
well,
enough.
it's full spoilers. So you
Full
could
spoilers.
say it.
That's true.
It's true.
Yeah.
He
It's when
kills
they-
everybody.
Yeah, that's
Wait,
when God's
what?
supposed to kill Tulip and bring him back, just to point out to Jesse that he can do that.
Right.
But yeah, no.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
A little bit, right?
Cassidy's backstory comes in.
We call it a
right-
Kevin Smith, where it's like you say spoilers after you give
Right.
out the thing. Yeah.
No, the Kevin Smith is spoilers.
Shit, I knew I forgot to say something. Fuck.
Spoilers. man.
Spoilers. Yo, pack this up for me. What were you
Not
saying?
anymore. He's on
Seth.
YouTube now.
That's true. He's on YouTube now. We're gonna push past that. So, any other thoughts, kind of like going ahead? I mean, like we talk about all the time, like before we started, about how like, just for us in general, like we just kind of feel like, the show wants to do its own thing, but sometimes it's doing so much of its own thing that it's like, hey, other adaptions. It's like, I get it, because you hear behind the scenes, it's like the creatives will always say stuff like, well, this way for people who've read the books, it's not exactly like that. They get to have surprises too, or it's like you kind of want to play in the world a little deeper or a little different than you
Yeah.
originally could. But then you look at stuff
but
like,
that's a BS excuse, because what did we learn by Lord of the Rings?
well, that's what I was just going to say, is like stuff like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. These are books and movies
They're
that they do make
faithful.
changes. They make
Yeah.
changes where they kind of like have to, or it makes sense to, or it's like, all right, we're gonna do something different, and sometimes you get shit for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like adding characters in, like Lord of the Rings, they added a couple of characters
Right.
in, and the purists didn't like that at all. And I'm just like, hey, if you were sticking to the loose guideline
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
then play around
Right.
within it.
But they really didn't do a whole lot that was all that different from the book. Certain areas they elaborated on, and all they really got rid of was Tom Bombadil.
Right. I'm
So-
saying, yeah.
I know.
That's a pretty faithful rendition
Yeah.
to me
Yeah.
in comparison to what we've gotten so far with this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm
And-
saying too.
You're right, and so they need to get back to
I'm
the
hoping
source
that, like,
material a
you
little bit
know,
more, I think.
as long as they
It's starting
kind
to
of,
scare me a little.
yeah, I think when, you know, we're going to ride this wave probably too. It's like some episodes are going to feel like it more than others until like it's kind of like, we're like hard in a storyline. And then it'll be like, okay, like we're definitely at grandma's. Like, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know, at least we're here, we're soaking in it, and maybe then it'll feel like we're getting a lot.
Yeah, well,
You know?
will Grandma be Aunt May's house?
Will it be an apartment in Queens? Like, will they change it up? Like,
you know what I mean? I'm just pulling something out of thin air because we just watched this.
don't get me
Spider-Man
wrong. Like, I
movie.
really feel
You know
like
what I mean?
certain. I'm hoping. Did I lose my mic? Up.
I
Nope.
mean,
No,
my
yeah.
point is it going to be so different? I mean, what we're going to get
Right.
I don't think
It's
that
continually. I mean,
I don't think it's going to be different at all from the book. That aspect of the show at all. Anyways, I mean, maybe the
For that
characters
storyline.
themselves might be different,
Right.
but the whole location is definitely going to be in Louisiana. I mean, last week we saw the signs for Angelville on the walls at the bar and shit, right?
Right.
Last
right,
week.
Right.
So Angelville is where Grandma lives. So we know that it's got
Yeah.
to be in Louisiana then.
something's going
Yeah.
on with Angelville.
You know,
I feel like this mic's not coming in right.
I think it's coming in pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Fine. Fair enough.
But that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. My hope is that Angelville is like the one storyline where they're like, okay, this one, like, it's not about like the road trip. It's like we are at a place. We are doing a very specific thing in like the archetype of the story.
Right.
We should stay kind of like really much closer with this particular
Yeah.
storyline.
Yeah.
You know, so there'll be some other ones where they can get then loose again. Like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know.
Unless Angelville becomes a sideshow.
Yeah, well,
something.
that was one
Because-
fear. That
yeah,
poster
because
did
that
make it seem
poster
like, oh, is this going to be like
is-
a carnival place or some shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they going to be like a carnival family that has their own evil, like twisted little carnival
Oh, God, I hope not.
going around Louisiana?
Because we are fucking, I am done with carnivals
Instead
on
of-
TV.
You know,
Like-
And that just changes
oh,
Jesse's
Stranger
backstory.
Things or something.
Well, that's Stranger Things, but like Carnival was a show, or even like
Right.
Heroes devolved into a carnival storyline. I think a carnival came to Gotham. I'm just, you know,
Oh, probably.
probably.
Yeah.
It's probably
That
there.
show
It's-
is a
it's-
carnival.
Yeah, there you go. It explains all those weirdos.
A writer on Gotham probably just put a script he was writing.
He's like, damn,
In the trash.
sliding it off to the side. These guys are really harsh. But yeah, I mean, because I feel like it's a good point. Like that just kind of changes his backstory to a degree. It adds a whole other thing that's just not.
Yeah, I mean,
don't know.
Yeah.
Jesse's backstory, as told in the book, is a pretty important thing
Yeah. Hey, at
to,
the
his,
least,
to his makeup. So you need to keep that close.
at the very least, every now and then, like when he thinks of Anvil now, you hear that like underwater sound,
Right.
like that whole like I'm dying.
Right.
Fucking.
Yeah.
I'm happy for that.
Angelville, you mean?
Yeah, Angelville rather.
Yeah, and then there was the fish tank thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So hopefully,
That's
yeah.
what I'm keeping my eyes on. That's my current eyes on the prize. That's,
Yeah.
That's
Because, I mean, that shit, they could even do a full season of Angelville, and I wouldn't even care. I'd love it.
I'd love it too. I'd love it too.
You
That
know?
might, and it might very well be how they're looking at season 3.
I almost wish shows would do that, where it's like,
Seasons feel
take
like
breaks in the show and throw in like almost
Right.
like comics do, like throw in like side issues, but like a full 10 episode worth
Where part of
of
the
like
story,
just Cassidy's side story for like season 4 is just Cassidy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But like Jesse and Tulip pop up in it towards the
Right,
end or whatever,
right,
because
right.
like he's telling them, he's
Sure.
telling Jesse the story like he does in the book.
Right. Right.
That's how we get it. We get it through the story.
I love it when they do that for just single episodes. Like American Gods
Right.
did that.
That's what I mean.
You know,
Yeah.
like episode
That's what I'm
3 or
saying.
4.
One full season of that, I think
know?
we'd fucking eat that up.
You know, so I mean,
Oh yeah, with Dead Wife.
a whole season.
Yep.
Yeah, with Dead Wife. A whole season of that would kill people though, because there's some
Yeah,
people that are just
definitely.
you can't do that to the audience.
No,
'cause
no,
now you've
I
given them a
understand.
trio that they want to see all the time.
Yeah.
But if you did single off episodes, like a couple per season,
Yeah.
that were just like,
Well, they only have
here's
13,
one for
so
Jesse. Here's
it's hard.
Like, you could just do one per season of one character. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
you could
Walking Dead
say-
does that.
Yeah, you could say Santa Killer's got his,
Right.
like in a way for season 1, and then this season somebody else is going to get like a one episode where it's like, oh shit, this is all about this guy.
Yeah.
You know, and then you save like the really juicy shit for like her star
Finale
you know,
reveals.
whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, Rapskis.
I think so.
Just a
Yeah.
reminder, if you want to send us emails, send them to pvp@wickedtheory.com. And I think that's
Yeah.
it.
Right. We on the Twitters?
We are on the Twitters. Bob, where are you on the Twitters?
I'm at Bob WTPC.
And you,
You
buddy?
can find me at Dom_Tory. It's TORRE.
Nice. And I'm at Wicked Theory. The show is at wickedtheory.com. And you can find us wherever good podcasts. Well, that's not true. You can only find us on Google Play, Stitcher, and iTunes.
Where free stuff is given away.
Yeah, but you can find wickedtheory.com is where you go if you're looking for it in general.
And Mixler every Saturday night at 7 o'clock.
At 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to hear us talk about other stuff, come listen to us live. Check out the Wicked Theory podcast and,
Fucks with it.
yeah, get down. Get diggy down.
Come
we'll be
back next week.
Come back next week, folks. We'll talk to you then.
Peace.
The Wicked Theory podcast is heard live every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern until whenever. Just go to mixler.com/wicked-theory. Mixler is MIXLR. Sign up to join the chat. Then click the follow button to get reminders whenever the show goes live.